Welcome to the Pokemon Show, the show where I discuss the latest information in Pokemon both competitively and otherwise. My name's Matt, let's get this started. So for today's top story, is Sun and Moon going to ruin competitive? No, of course not. Don't be stupid. Before I go too far into this, I should acknowledge that we don't have all the information about Sun and Moon. So really anything is possible. It could ruin competitive, but I think at this point in the league so far, there isn't anything that's been revealed yet that is going to really ruin competitive. In my opinion, the only thing introduced so far that will change the meta at its core is Z moves. I'm not entirely sure how these work yet. I guess you have to hold an item and you can only use a Z move once per game, and you have to have another move of the same type as that Z move, which just seems really convoluted. I can see how this can make bulky teams like stall and bulky offense slightly less viable, as it's going to be riskier to try to switch in when there could be an extremely powerful Z move that could happen at any moment. But don't forget about the drawbacks to this. Not only does it take up a move slot, which is a precious commodity these days, but it also takes up an item slot. This means no choice scarf, choice band, choice specs, means no life orb, no leftovers, no assault vest, anything like that. But you can also only use it once per game. That means if you happen to mess up, say for example you use a ghost type Z move on a normal type Pokemon, or if these moves have maybe a 10% chance to miss and you just happen to get unlucky in that one, then you miss your chance and you don't get to use it again. I'm gonna wait for more information to see how viable these things really are, but comparing them to the changes that have been introduced in previous generations, such as things like abilities, held items, physical special split, team preview, plenty of other things, I don't really see this as being a big a factor as those other things, which clearly didn't ruin competitive, they really just made it better. The key point to remember here is that change is good. Without change, nothing can grow or get better. Don't hate something because it's different, just hope it makes things better, and if it doesn't make things better, then maybe they'll change. Now let's move into the section of the show where I'm going to talk about the most recent Sun and Moon information. In the most recent trailer for Sun and Moon, we got some very interesting new information. We're introduced to Ultra Beast and the Aether Foundation. We did get a few other things, but I think the top two things to take away from that trailer were Ultra Beast and the Aether Foundation, so that's what I'm going to focus on. We got two Ultra Beasts, Type Null, which inevitably led to everyone believing that we got a new type, and UB01, which is Jellicent's weird cousin that moved out to LA after high school and tried to make it in the fashion industry. It's way too early to say much about these Pokemon, but they definitely seem really unique and creative, so I'm excited about them. Particularly interested to see what comes out of this Pokemon Type Null. It's basically a chimera of different Pokemon types, and there's that weird necklace thing that looks like Arceus's thing, so maybe this Pokemon will have some kind of ability that lets it change its types like Arceus. Who knows? We really have no information about this thing. The other thing that was introduced in this trailer, the Aether Foundation, might have something to do with this. There are some theories floating around about the Aether Foundation being the actual evil team, and Team Skull, which we thought was the evil team earlier on, might actually be the good guys. And there is a theory floating around that the Aether Foundation created Type Null by combining a bunch of different parts to different Pokemon, and I think that would be really crazy and really interesting. Also, if you haven't seen Shofu's video on this subject, this is where I got a lot of the inspiration to talk about this. Definitely check that out. He has a lot of cool stuff in there. I think he has two other friends. I'm pretty sure Roger's Base is the other guy in the video, and then there's one other guy that I don't remember, but definitely go check that out. It's a very good video. So the theory now is that the Aether Foundation is the true evil team, while Team Skull are actually the good guys. Personally, I think this sounds great. This is the kind of storyline that would be unlike anything the Pokemon games have really done before, and would serve as a great way to finally break that mold that has been the same for 20 years. I also love the idea that Team Skull is actually the good guys because they sound so evil, and I think it'd be a great way to teach the lesson of don't judge a book by its cover. Just because they look and sound evil doesn't mean they are necessarily evil. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject. Is the Aether Foundation out to destroy us all? What do you think the plan is for Type Null? And will Team Skull turn out to be the good guys? Leave a comment down below letting me know what you think. And that brings us to our replay of the day, which is going to be a series which I show a particularly interesting replay and talk about it. So let's slowly fade into that. Today's replay is an RU battle from my best friend Quinlan Ding. He has been a guest on the channel many times, so feel free to check out any of these hilarious videos if you're so inclined. This replay shows off Quinlan Ding's new Swords Dance Venusaur set. It helps that his opponent's team basically has nothing for Venusaur at all, but you can see how with Dredagon taken down in the first few turns by Miltank, it sets the stage perfectly for Venusaur to set up on basically any other Pokemon and proceed to sweep his way to victory. And now we are back with my final segment, which is my hats off segment. Today my hat goes off to Alolan form Pokemon. For years I've been saying that Gamefreak needs to dive down into the lower tier Pokemon and do a stat overhaul to catch them up with the constant power creep that happens with each generation. While Alolan form Pokemon wasn't exactly what I had in mind, it's still pretty awesome. All the Pokemon that have been given Alola form so far are Generation 1 Pokemon, but also desperately needed some kind of buff competitively. All of these Pokemon are NU or below, but maybe these new forms will find themselves higher up in usage. Of course, that does depend on if they receive any stat changes, because that is the real root of the problem, and they haven't really told us anything about stat changes yet. They've only told us about typing and appearance. But anyways, hats off to Game Freak for getting creative with much needed buffs to older Pokemon. And that's going to be all for today's show. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Keep dreaming.